Everyone, I'm Tim Higgins, and I'm going to present to you about the American CYANAMID Superfund site. It's a CERCLAS EPA ID listed here. This Superfund site is based in my hometown of Basking Ridge or Bridgewater, New Jersey, and just to give you a bit of background and overview about the site, it was about 575 acres on one of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's first Superfund priority sites. So there are national priority sites that are dictated beyond what a normal Superfund site would be. And this was one of the worst offenders, not only in the state of New Jersey, but across the country. This site in particular had seen decades of dumping different volatile as well as semi-volatile organic compounds, metals, and other harmful chemicals. And the history of this site is both in chemical production, chemical manufacturing, as well as pharmaceuticals dating to 1915. So there's about 100 years of dumping that have occurred in my hometown. So CYANAMID was the main offender. The company had been exchanged many times and has seen a lot of different industries come onto that same site. Now it's basically a barren wasteland that's being handed off between different companies, and it came in the news, which is why I felt the need to present on it. This little cutout here is from the EPA's Superfund site, giving a background if you ever want to look up the closest Superfund site to your home. That's the first place I'd recommend looking up. Some more background about American CYANAMID. They did a lot of agricultural chemicals before World War I, and then going into World War II, they switched over from industrial chemicals to more specialty, synthetics, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics. Basically, they ran the gamut. This site had different owners at different points in time, and ultimately it amounted to 27 different waste disposal areas with termed as impoundments. And out of these 27 impoundments on the site, 16 were deemed necessary to be addressed under the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, or CERCLA. And that was essentially the piece of legislation that determined which sites were both Superfund sites and which ones were priorities. This has been an ongoing project for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. So the state as well as the federal protection agencies have had to oversee this site, among many others. So which compounds are present at this particular Superfund site? At those 27 impoundments that I had mentioned, there's 877,000 tons of waste material, primarily VOCs, volatile organic carbons, which include benzene, chlorobenzene, toluene, and xylene, as well as chelated forms of benzene, chlorobenzene, toluene, and xylene, which are referred to as semi-volatile organic compounds. There's also a variety of inorganic metals that kind of run the gamut too, between antimony, arsenic, barium, all the way down to silver and vanadium. As of this fall, there are 6 impoundments that have been cleaned up. 2 of those 2 additional impoundments were in the process of being cleared and will be cleaned by 2020. 6 impoundments were included in a recommended Plan 4A, which you can see on my previous slide called out in the diagram, that will be cleaned within the next 10 years, and it's in the remedial design phase. And there's an additional 2 that are still under feasibility assessment. The reason why I'm presenting on this subject is that the site has come under new ownership. So as of 2009, Pfizer had bought the Wyeth Holding Corporation. Wyeth previously had held American Cyanide since 1994. From 1994 to 1998, Wyeth redeveloped, basically cleared the land, and then was able to get the EPA's blessing to develop it for other purposes. This led to a major shopping center, a minor league baseball team ballpark, as well as a New Jersey Transit parking lot. I think the hope is, or has been since Pfizer bought the property from Wyeth, to develop the property again, clean it off so that they can ultimately sell it to developers for additional use outside of just barren wasteland. So current happenings, as I said, the headline that piqued my interest was on Tuesday, September 29th, where a settlement will provide nearly $200 million for clean up work at the super. Again, as I said, it's kind of a debacle in that Pfizer bought the entire holding company of Wyeth. Wyeth was previously the owner of this American Cyanamid Superfund site, and since they bought them some time ago, it's kind of been caught up in judicial proceedings, and now has finally gotten to the place where they've agreed on how much is required to do the cleanup work after the EPA had done those assessments, and it amounts to about $200 million for them to clean up the site so it could be repurposed for other uses. The remediation action plan. So Wyeth will, though underneath Pfizer's ownership, will continue operating a system of collecting and treating the contaminated groundwater that's underneath the site. So if you look at the picture on the top right, they've essentially covered the entire facility, all of the grounds which have been used as a dumping ground, and all of the chemicals are beginning to, or have been for some time, leaching into the groundwater and into the Raritan River, the Kuckel's Brook, and Middle Brook. Of most importance is the Raritan River, which feeds to the second largest aquifer in the state of New Jersey. So this is a major water table. It's of major concern to the entire state of New Jersey, and happened to be right down the road from me. So it's kind of crazy to know that under my nose there were 65,000 gallons of groundwater each day that are being pumped out of this facility to simply be treated so that it doesn't enter into the water table and start to get used, because we have primarily VOCs as well as SVOCs that are continually getting leached from their primary containers into the water and essentially propagating it outward. So an interesting finding, something that I found interesting simply because it's in my backyard. I had no idea that it was such a big Superfund site, and it's interesting to see how a lot of the pharmaceutical companies, such as Pfizer, though have no intentions of building on the land themselves, found it financially feasible and to their advantage to buy the site and to do the necessary cleanup, to work hand in hand with the EPA to ultimately redevelop it for another cause. So with that, thanks again, and I look forward to answering your questions.